Greetings, rise and shine, brethren. We are the World Global Reset Restoration Network family, comprised of 198 sovereign nations with over 7 billion sovereign principles, being of one mind, one heart, and one spirit, walking together under the divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I come to you as a voice in the wilderness to introduce to you a man. No, not just any man, but a man sent by Yah Allah to redeem mankind. Dr. Henderson, the Adak Chief Justice of the Universal World Court, and who's also known as Yehoshua Mashiach, the Son of Man. The information that you will be receiving in this and other videos you won't get from anywhere else on the planet. Hear the many truths and fulfillment of the laws, judgments, and sentencings from our Creator, Father Yah, as well as the fulfillment of the true interpretation of the Holy Scriptures and books. Now, without further ado, Dr. Henderson, with his beloved host, Shelley Bowling.
Well, family, I hope that the majority of you have been sitting down with your popcorn and watching the show. Because what you have been seeing going on for several years now has been the hard work of Father Yah Allah and of the righteous, directed by his son, Yehoshua Mashiach, coordinating what is going on for the takedown of the criminals and the unrighteous on this planet. For several years now, in fact, even the first 30 days that President Trump came into office, the pedophile rings started being broken up. Children have been being saved and rescued from pedophile rings, sex trafficking, human trafficking, and satanic ritual abuse. In fact, now our military have been going into deep underground military bases, or what they just call DUMBs, where the tunnels and different areas are underground, where these children were kept, and bringing them out. And this has been ongoing for quite some time. Now, how does all of this tie in with what we're seeing happening right now with the coronavirus? Dr. Henderson, Yehoshua Mashiach, has been telling us this is a blood agent. And it was initially designed and created for the destruction of mankind. But we know that whatever Satan and Lucifer and their offsprings put together for the destruction of man, Father Yah can turn to the destruction of them. So now we have a lot of these children being rescued. And as these children are coming out, they're being given the medical care that they need and the psychiatric care and support that they need to build their little bodies back up again and restore them. So what has this done? We've talked in the past about those of the global elite. Many of them are your celebrities, your sports stars, politicians, priests, preachers, rabbis, your religious leaders. And they have been participating in these pedophile rings. One of the things that they are doing and have been doing through satanic ritual abuse is drinking their blood. They're getting what is known as the adrenochrome out of their blood. And this keeps them from aging. It keeps them young. So now we have our children being removed from their clutches. And right now, everybody's on lockdown. So where are our babies? They're not in the daycare center. They're home safe with mom and dad or brother and sister. And now all the children are now home and studying at home. So this puts them out of reach of those that might be wanting to take more children for their adrenochrome. So how does this tie in with what Father Yah's Word says concerning these times? Yehoshua Mashiach has told us that everything that has been written in all of the Holy Scriptures is all happening simultaneously right now. Now I'm going to tie all of these things together here for you in just a moment. Now, what is adrenochrome? I'm not going to get into the gory details of how it's extracted or anything like that. But its general makeup is iron and ferritin. Now, iron builds up in your body, but the ferritin helps counter it so that it's not released suddenly. It basically just holds it together so that it cannot destroy the body. However, just recently you heard that those that are getting coronavirus, they're using something called hydrochloroquine, and that it seems to be having good results on people that are dealing with coronavirus. Well, one of the issues with adrenochrome and those that are having to get it, because it's a very slow, painful death if they don't have it, because now their supply's been cut off. They can't get it to the children. They can't get to your children because they're safe at home with you. So they're having to order it synthetic adrenochrome. And it just happens to come out of a lab out of China. And out of Wuhan, China. That particular lab, the adrenochrome happens to have coronavirus in it. So now you see this list of popping up everywhere of all of these celebrities and priests and everyone dying of coronavirus. So now this gets back to what many of the doctors have been using as a cure, that hydrochloroquine. Hydrochloroquine happens to be made out of absinthe and wormwood. Wormwood, that's a very familiar term to those that may be familiar with Scripture. Now I'm going to go on to what Scripture says about wormwood. In Jeremiah chapter 9, 14 through 16, but they have walked, talking about the unrighteous, according to the dictates of their own hearts, and after the Baals, that's Baal worship, child sacrifice, blood drinking, which their fathers taught them. Therefore, thus says the Lord Yah of hosts, the God of true Israel, behold, I will feed them, this people, with wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink. I will scatter them also among the Gentiles, whom neither they nor their fathers have known. I will send a sword after them until I have consumed them. And then in Jeremiah 23, 14 through 16, I've seen a horrible thing in the prophets of Jerusalem. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They also strengthen the hands of evildoers, so that no one turns back from his wickedness. All of them are like Sodom to me. Yehoshua read this the other day. And her inhabitants like Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah, the sexual perversion of every type, LGBTQ, pedophilia, any kind of sexual perversion, were in those cities. Thus, therefore, says the Lord Yah of hosts concerning the prophets, behold, I will feed them with wormwood, and make them drink the water of gall. For from the prophets of Jerusalem, profaneness has gone out into all this land. Then in Deuteronomy 29:18, so that there may not be among you man, woman, family, or tribe whose heart turns away today from the Lord Yah, to go and serve the gods of these nations, and that there may not be among you a root bearing bitterness or wormwood. So how does this wormwood affect those that drink the adrenochrome that now have COVID-19 or coronavirus? The iron that the ferritin stores up in the bodies. And it releases it because their bodies are very heavy, laden with iron. And it releases it into the body. And it is a very agonizing and painful death, wormwood poisoning. So now you can see how pedophilia, satanic ritual abuse, adrenochrome, coronavirus, and the words of our Father Yah all come together. Yehoshua Mashiach is here. He has brought to this planet the true interpretation of all of Father Yah's words in all of the Holy Scriptures. He has given us the understanding of where we are in Father Yah's timeline. He has explained to us in very simplistic terms what is necessary for man to get through this. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Yah is God and that his son, Yehoshua Mashiach, is who he says he is.
I know. When I first started this journey out, as nothing more to them than a young man, they said to me that these things could not be done. They told me that the world would never be right. They have told me that there's no way that you can get everybody on the planet to get right. They told me that there's no way in the world that you can go to a court system whereby you can get all of the judges and all of the people in the court, to include the jury, to include those that are deemed to be nothing more than court reporters. They told me that you can't get all of them to get right. They said there's always going to be the majority of them that's going to be wicked and you're going to lose. They told me that there's no way that you can make the whole world humble itself. They said there's no way. They said there's no way that you can cause all the people on the planet to do the right thing. There's no way. It's impossible. It cannot be done. They said, and better yet, you are going to have to find some would-be so-called police force, whereby you're going to have to at least help them change their hearts and change their mind before you're going to be able to go out and truly pick up those that are guilty of murder, those that are guilty of lying, those that are guilty of manipulation, those that are guilty of child molesting, those that are guilty of even leaving the child where the child will be without a home, but they're going to pretend that they're the home builders and the homemakers. They said it's impossible. They told me it was impossible. United Nations, can you believe that? They told me that there was no way that I can incarcerate the whole world. They said that's what you would have to do before you would be able to stop the wickedness that's going on. They said, first, Dr. Henderson, they call me Hindu. There's those that only know me by Irving. But they understand the fact. They told me that this could not be done. I could not incarcerate everybody on the planet. It's impossible. Quarantine is classified as incarceration. Isolation is classified as incarceration. Yeah, isolation, incarceration, they're the same. Quarantine. And it will become more mass, because I keep saying to you, just when you try to open back up your government, we're going to send you something very, very different. Something you've never seen before. I don't know what name you're going to give it. Talk to your scientists. Right now, even though they have been knowing about coronavirus now for, I would say, since the 1950s, they have been knowing about coronavirus. And it seems that every so often they come up with some new would-be name for it. But they have even known about it since 1919. And only now do they still try to find some new name to come up to call it. They've been knowing about it now since 1886 in the United States of America. And they still only have waited till now to come up with some new name for it. Stay with me. Swine flu, yes. Smallpox, yes. SARS, yes. Ebola, yes. They will come up with a new name. Coronavirus, COVID-19, COVID-19. They're going to keep coming up with new names for it. But trust me, it will not go away. Let's just say, once upon a time, I told you a story, United Nations, about having a thorn in my side. I told you that story because I said that thorn had been placed in my side, whereby I would remember my Father, Yah Allah, the only God of the universe, and whereby I would not ever allow myself to step out of my would-be domain of being respectful and kind and humble and honest with Him. For it will be there as a reminder for me that I am not God, that I am only His creature. And thereby He created me. And that thorn is in my side to keep me in memory that I myself need Him to make sure that I can go forward when that thorn begins to hurt. United Nations, these are simple examples that I'm giving you, but it's obvious, and it's very obvious to me, that before the leaders will give over and understand there is but one God, as it has been written, I will come forth and I will break the very backbones of the leaders and of those nations, based upon the fact that I must break the backbones of the leaders, and the nation will then humble themselves. Let's just say, United Nations, as we begin to move through this world now where you're looking for some normacy, I've explained to you before about normacy bias. I'm believing that the majority of you now is beginning to recognize this normacy bias, and you're beginning to realize that if you have a bias against the normacy in which you deem yourself to be going back to, or that you're going to get back to, let me help you out. Not going to happen. You'll never get back to the normacy in which you believe it to be. I kind of like the idea now of being able to go to a supermarket where I get this supermarket cart. This cart in which I get now in the United Nations, it rolls, I would say it rolls nicely. I don't hear the wheels squeaking. I don't see all of the would-be lint that's inside of the wheel. You know what I mean? I'm getting a cart now that I know has been cleaned out. It's been sprayed down. It's been disinfected. United Nations, I don't miss the normal. I don't miss that normalcy life in which once I got that cart where it was barely rolling, squeaking, lint everywhere. Handprints that I could see with chocolate and everything else that would have been placed on it by not by a child, but by an adult. I found them where they had plastic bags that would still be inside of them with cigarette butts and even beer cans and all other would-be objects that I don't want to mention due to the fact I got young listeners on here. And some of you might disagree with that, but yes, I found a couple of those carts every now and then. They even had used condoms still in them. Stay with me. I'm going to keep it clean. But I have to be truthful and understand if that's normal, I don't want to go back to it. What about you, United Nations? I don't hear anyone yelling and screaming, let's go back now. Let's just call it the old school, the old world. I don't want to go back to it if that's what they deem to be normacy. I kind of like what's happening right now. Again, I'm getting a clean cart. It's been disinfected. And it's right there with an attendant waiting to pass it to me. And he's wearing gloves and a mask. That lets me know that he didn't even put his nasty hands or his blowed on it by his would-be bad breath. Stay with me. I'm not attacking anybody, United Nations, but I must give it to the people where they understand what's happening now and what's coming through my Father to make sure that if you can do it now, you can do it later when you do get back to a comfortable life in which you're so now desiring. You won't be worried about perhaps the breath of life just running off and taking it on its own would-be course of disappearing on you, right? I know what everyone's thinking right now. Am I worried? I tell you what, if you think I'm worried, go ahead and have a second thought, because that one that you're having now, it's not working for me. I can care less about any normacy going back to it in which I've already come from, which I've already now been on the planet for these would-be now 3 scores, watching the ignorance of mankind, believing that those things were normal. We won't go back to that. It's going to get better. The first time I began to see those things where man has begun to stop spraying down the shopping carts, stop cleaning the store out, stop wiping off the counters before the next customer step up, stop putting his breath and blowing and breathing and coughing and sneezing and screaming at the people about hurry up and pay so the next person can step forward. The first time I see that, United Nations, as a promise from my Father, Yah Allah, God of the universe, let's just say your counters and your attendants and you will not exist on any planet in which my Father has created. But meantime, you think about it. Ask me what is normacy, and I'll show you. But if you deem yourself to be going back to some normacy in which you believe that you had already had, that you had made for yourself, not going to happen.